She wasn't just a prophet. She wasn't just a judge. Deborah was a warrior in a time when warriors were expected to be men, clad in armor and wielding swords. But Deborah led differently, with unwavering wisdom, fearless faith, and an authority that transcended gender and tradition. While men hesitated in the face of danger, Deborah stood tall and spoke boldly, not begging for the mic or waiting for permission, but declaring the word of God with power and clarity. The story of Deborah is not just an ancient tale of leadership. It's a timeless message about courage, obedience, and the strength that comes from a divine calling. She reminds us that true power comes not from physical might, but from a heart fully aligned with purpose. When the people of Israel were crushed under the rule of oppressive enemies, they turned to Deborah, a woman whose voice carried the weight of heaven itself. Imagine the scene: a woman seated under the palm tree, the symbol of justice and authority, with people flocking to her for counsel. The weight of a nation's hope rested on her shoulders. Unlike many leaders who falter in fear or doubt, Deborah's confidence did not come from her own strength, but from the certainty that God had placed her there for such a time as this. Her story invites us to question, what would it look like if we too embraced our calling boldly and without hesitation? This is the story of Deborah, a judge, a prophetess, a leader, and a warrior, a woman who showed that leadership is not about gender or appearance, but about the willingness to rise and lead with faith when the world demands it most. In the midst of ancient Israel's darkest days, Deborah stood as a pillar of justice, wisdom, and divine authority. The land was gripped by fear under the oppressive reign of King Jabin of Canaan and his formidable commander, Sisera. For 20 long years, Israel suffered under their tyranny, a time when hope seemed to wither and the people cried out for deliverance. It was in this turbulent time that Deborah emerged, not just as a leader, but as the voice of God itself. The Bible describes her as a prophetess, a woman gifted with divine insight, able to hear from heaven and communicate God's will clearly to the people. But she was more than a prophetess. She was Israel's judge, a role that in those days combined judicial authority, spiritual leadership, and practical governance. Imagine the scene beneath the great palm of Deborah, where she sat to judge disputes and guide the nation. This was no ordinary courthouse. People from all walks of life, from the most powerful chieftains to the common farmer, came seeking her wisdom. They came because they trusted her judgment, because they believed God spoke through her, and because she carried a calm authority that could settle conflicts and inspire courage. Deborah's role as judge was radical for several reasons. In a patriarchal society where leadership was almost exclusively male, Deborah's authority was a powerful statement that God's calling transcends gender. She was a living example that leadership is rooted in character and divine purpose, not in tradition or societal expectation. But Deborah was also a leader who knew the value of partnership. When Barak, the military commander summoned by God to fight Sisera, hesitated, she did not hesitate with him. "I will go with you," she declared boldly, "but because of the way you are going about this, the honor will not be yours, for the Lord will deliver Sisera into the hands of a woman." Her words were both a challenge and a promise, a declaration that divine plans often unfold in unexpected ways. Barak's hesitation reminds us of a very human truth. Even those called to lead can feel fear and doubt. Yet Deborah's courage was contagious. She showed that true leadership is not about going it alone, but about standing firm in purpose and walking forward with trusted allies. Her willingness to accompany Barak into battle illustrated a kind of leadership that combined strength with humility, courage with collaboration. Her leadership style was marked by clarity, decisiveness, and faith. She did not delay or doubt, but spoke with the authority of one who knew her role was ordained by God. The people of Israel looked to Deborah not just as a judge, but as a source of strength and vision. Under her guidance, the community found hope amidst despair. Moreover, Deborah's role as a prophetess meant she was deeply connected to God's timing and plans. Unlike many leaders who rely solely on strategy or human wisdom, Deborah's leadership was rooted in divine direction. This connection gave her insights into the battle ahead and the assurance that victory was possible if they obeyed God's commands. Her story teaches us that leadership is multifaceted. It requires wisdom to judge rightly, courage to lead boldly, and faith to trust in a higher power. Deborah embodied all these qualities, proving that when God calls, preparation meets opportunity, and purpose overcomes fear. Even today, Deborah's example challenges us to examine our own leadership. Are we waiting for permission to step up? Are we hesitating because of doubt or fear? Deborah's life encourages us to listen deeply for our own divine call and to answer with boldness and faith. Because true leaders do not just react to circumstances, they rise above them, grounded in purpose and confident in their calling. Deborah's leadership culminated in an extraordinary victory. The battle was fierce, and Sisera's forces were mighty, but Deborah's faith and obedience carried the day. God promised her the victory, and she trusted that promise without reservation. This was not a story of human strength alone. It was a testament to divine power working through a willing heart. When Deborah went into battle, she wasn't just giving orders from afar. She was right there, leading the charge. The soldiers followed her, not because of her physical strength, but because of the spirit she carried, the assurance that they were fighting for a just cause under God's guidance. The enemies were defeated, Sisera was overthrown, and peace was restored to the land. Deborah's story still speaks powerfully to us today. In a world that often tells women to wait their turn, to be quiet, or to follow the path already laid out by others, Deborah stands as a reminder that the call to leadership can come to anyone, at any time. If God has called you to lead, do not wait for permission. Do not shrink back in fear or hesitation. Lead boldly, with grace, and with the confidence that you carry a sword that no one can take from you. In the modern world, this could mean stepping up in the boardroom, the community, or even in your own family. It means using your voice to speak truth, your wisdom to guide others, and your faith to overcome obstacles. Deborah's example tells us that leadership is not about fitting into the mold, but about breaking it and forging a path that reflects divine purpose. You were born to shake rooms and shift atmospheres. Like Deborah, you carry a crown of authority and a call to purpose that cannot be silenced. The world needs women and men who lead with boldness, who speak with clarity, and who walk with unwavering faith. If Deborah's story inspired you, then join us on Crowned and Called, where we share stories of purpose and power. Stories of women who have changed the course of history by answering their call. Subscribe now and become part of a community that celebrates courage, faith, and leadership. Remember, Leadership is not about waiting for the perfect moment. It's about moving when you are called. Lead with boldness, walk with grace, and never forget that the sword you carry is a symbol of your divine authority. Subscribe to Crowned and Called. Stories of purpose. Women of power.